All right, everybody. Thank you again for joining today. I'm Bobby Narang. I'm Chief Customer Officer here at OpenSense, and incredibly excited to have y'all join us today. I think we've got a really compelling story to share with you today about a customer of ours, a large regional bank with locations up and down the East Coast that um, looked at OpenSense not just from an email signature standardization standpoint, but also from a regulatory lens, leveraging OpenSense in a way that allowed them to enhance their email signatures to better align with regulatory guidance as it pertained to CAN spam. And the really compelling takeaway for us in that exercise was they viewed their adherence to CAN spam regulation as something that actually served them as from a brand standpoint. That when you're not only presenting yourselves professionally, but you're also doing so in a way that makes it clear that you have the customer's, for instance, privacy in mind. That's something that actually is a brand asset that positively reflects upon the brand, and something that we were very excited to kind of share with you today, sort of what that looked like, what was the problem, where did they see the opportunity, and how did they kind of orchestrate internally to deliver an outcome here that we think and they think really enhances their brand. So that's kind of the topic of today's conversation when compliance becomes a brand advantage. And I think the critical thing here is just an understanding that we do a lot of work to make sure that we're always presenting ourselves as well as possible. But often, employee email, the emails that your employees are composing and sending on a day-to-day basis, sometimes just fall outside of our control. And the reason that that's incredibly important to consider is that, think about all of the work that you're doing internally to kind of create a uniform experience, your marketing emails, even the physical space that your institution operates within. Everything is meticulously planned. Everything is designed to make a positive first impression and a lasting impression when your customers are engaging with you. Because ultimately, in this industry, the ability for us to establish meaningful relationships over the long tail that are built on trust is what allows us to increase the um, contribution, if you will, from those that are customers of our bank or credit union. And I think trust is really kind of the operative word there. You want to do business as a consumer. I want to do business with brands that I trust. And I wanted to kind of just share an example with you of where trust can kind of fall apart in a very innocuous way, but a very prevalent way at the same time. What you're seeing in my inbox is an email that I received from a large, well-known financial institution. It's been around for over 100 years. And this is an email that I received from a representative from the bank. And you'll notice that just the first impression of this message is that it does not represent, in my opinion, it doesn't present a brand that has an established brand value that's been built over decades and even centuries. In fact, in many ways, this email that I received, this is a real email from my inbox. Obviously, there's no branding. You can see the disclosures are kind of presented in different fonts and sizes. There's not anything really. There's no real sort of structure to it. I got to tell you, this thing initially almost triggered me to mark the email as spam. And imagine that, if you're a brand, if you're an institution that relies on establishing trust with a customer, not just now, but over the long tail, imagine the erosion of that trust that might occur when an employee is doing their job, sends an email that looks like this. Um, it just doesn't serve the broader objectives of the organization. And it certainly does very little to strengthen the trust that I experience as a consumer. And if anything, it deteriorates that trust. And I think understanding that trust is something that is for many of us a brand pursuit. And I think there's a couple of instructive quotes around this that I wanted to share. And I'm really curious of your feedback or what your thoughts are on this. But Mark Benioff, he's the CEO of a software company called Salesforce. Nothing is more important today for business than trust. Warren Buffett says it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Um, these idioms, these apply not just to us personally in our relationships with our customers, but more broadly to our brands as we engage our customers and build on the trust to ultimately grow our businesses over the long tail. And so I think, when we think about open sense, and one of the ideas that we want to make sure that we're conveying today is that you may already believe this. You all may already know this. You may already be acting on this. But there's certain places where you're likely executing on this, and there's certain places where just from a technical standpoint, you may not have the ability to. So, for instance, um, marketing campaigns. Like these go through brand review. They're very meticulously checked and rechecked before they ever go out. They are designed to land to align with your website and your landing pages, your brand guidelines, even your social media content. It's almost certain that anything that goes out gets some type of review, maybe not just through marketing, but even through legal potentially as well. And then ultimately, like any customer comms, like you're adhering to the opt-ins on your SMS messaging, your email messaging, etc. And all of that is well and good, and all of that is working in your favor in the context of establishing, building, and extending your trust. On the uncontrolled side, though, are things that um, maybe fall outside of your scope. So, for instance, employee email signatures. We saw in the previous example that that large organization did not have control over their email signatures, which resulted in just sort of this hodgepodge. But even beyond that, not just the brand, disclaimers, like these are regulatory mandate. These are mandated from a regulatory standpoint. Can spam opt-outs, giving your customer the ability to opt out of commercial messaging, mobile email formatting, like making sure that it looks good when people are sort of reviewing their emails from their phone after they get the kids to bed or whatever. And then in certain scenarios, you even have to have your NMLS numbers and other certifications present. And today, this is like an incredibly difficult thing to manage at scale in the manner in which you would um, have control over some of the other elements that we talked about previously. And that's where OpenSense comes in. And why is this important? Well, more people might interface with the emails that your employees are sending in any given day than may visit your website. For every 100 employees, you're sending about 40 emails a day. The customer that I was mentioning before, the regional bank with banks up and down the East Coast, has around 2,200 employees, which meant that on average, they were sending about 22 million emails every single year. And when you sort of break that down, that's 88,000 emails every single day where there was initially a lack of centralized control over both the brand as well as sort of the regulatory components of the email signature. And, this isn't sort of like theoretical. This is happening today. Like business still runs on email. And so emails are being sent from your organization every single day. By the way, I saw a question come in. Um, Let's go ahead and take a look at it really quickly. Where did it go? Oh, how does OpenSense prevent unauthorized signature changes while allowing flexibility for different teams and regions? We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Okay, let's keep going. So the brand component is something that I think was very obvious in the example that I shared initially, where there was just a absence of that brand and the email just kind of looked like spam. I think what's also really relevant and important in banking, in credit unions, is that there is that regulatory lens that's placed on the on this channel, and I think that's really important. Can spam has within scope, for instance, emails that your bankers might be sending to your customers on a day-to-day basis from Outlook, from mobile devices, or whatever the case might be. That's different from some other regulations, like in Europe, for instance, where those emails are kind of out of scope. But when it comes to can spam, if somebody says, I don't want to receive a commercial offer from your organization, and you furnish them with a commercial offer, well, that's gonna that meets the threshold for a potential fine, and the fines are up to $50,000 per infraction. But whether it's can spam opt-outs, being able to sort of manage those, the FINRA exposure, disclosures we know need to be present, the NMLS numbers, like all of this is within scope when you think about the absence of centralized control over your employee email. And that's something that is very real. It goes beyond just making your email signatures look beautiful. This is a gap that many companies experience, and one that entities within the financial services space are leveraging OpenSense to fill in. And, again, to beat a horse dead here, how does this sort of come across? Well, first you have the sort of the brand inconsistency, in this example, and this may look very familiar to some of you all because again, when employees are left to their own devices to create their email signature experience, um, anything goes. So whether it's font mismatching, three different sort of font styles and obviously sizes, you notice there's no sort of opt out like manage your preferences link or anything like that. Um, Expired awards. I mean, it's really great that you earn sort of best banker in 2024. It's not really great to be presenting that to your customers in 2026. And I think that's something that we know is very important to the banks and credit unions that we work with is the ability to kind of let the market know sort of how they've been achieving amongst their peers. And then just sort of more broadly, your legal disclosures as well. Um, to come back to the customer that we were talking about again, there was a noted regulatory requirement to include the CAN spam opt-out link, specifically your email preference center, in every email, in addition to the standardized disclosures. And this was something that they viewed cross-functionally as a problem and an opportunity. Initially, compliance and legal steps in and indicates to the organization, hey, these are missing and frankly are required, and we need a solution for that. Marketing had already invested in OpenSense to help to standardize branding across all of their employees' Outlook and mobile and Outlook web access devices to ensure that they were getting beautiful signature branding, uh, banner campaigns and analytics, the ability to kind of have different signatures per location. So compliance starts tapping on marketing's shoulder to say, hey, is there a solution with OpenSense that can potentially help us to achieve a more compliant posture in our everyday email? And then, of course, our trusted partners in IT, who we were able to leverage to ensure that we were setting up the right groupings by plugging into their employee directories, and then deploying a new methodology, which is the Outlook add-in, which I'll be showing you here as we continue in the demo a little bit later. But this is something that became a cross-functional play where a single solution like OpenSense was able to support the outcome that they were looking for. And at the end of that, you end up with an email signature that just looks the part. And I think this is like one of the critical aspects of what we're providing here is the ability, to create that unified brand experience. It's not just about making the email signature look beautiful. You'll notice here these different buttons like apply now, contact me, upload file securely. We're actually compl enabling our customers to do business with us more easily, which is a wonderful aspect of the standardization play. You'll even notice the offer beneath the email signature. OpenSense gives you the ability to promote whether it's uh, rate on a CD, or the 10K for charity that you're hosting within the community next week. It just opens up this touch point as a way to really set the brand apart and tell a brand story that, again, engenders not just trust, but also impact. You'll notice the standardization of the disclosure language down here, the accreditations, as well as recent awards, even NMLS numbers for different states that this particular recipient operates or sender operates within. These are all centrally managed. And across the board, to bring it back to our customer story here, email signature standardization, signature banners to be able to promote their initiatives, and then even digital business cards, which leverage the same employee information that shows up in your email signature within a digital business card, which allows you to easily share your V card with any people that you're meeting in real life, using that same centralized source of truth employee data. So just to kind of tie it all together, what happens whenever email reinforces your brand? It's something that really engenders that trust. It's consistent brand presence, just that unified experience with every employee, every touch point. Again, they're experiencing that in most channels. They may be missing that in the most personal channel, which is email with the folks that work at your bank. And that's something that OpenSense can take to the next level. The measurable impressions, not only seeing that the brand is appropriately being represented, but leveraging that to drive engagement on the things that matter to you, from a, a marketing standpoint, whether it's, again, discounted rates or community charity events, whatever the case might be. Um, the beauty of the way that OpenSense is deployed is that you can achieve this at scale without asking end users to lift a finger. And that makes this essentially a turnkey capability. We provide a lot of hands-on support to make sure that everything is aligned so that you hit a button and you're able to go, and your marketing, your brand, your marketing, and your compliance objectives can be met with just the flip of a switch. So now I want to bring you over into the platform. So bear with me for just a second as I bring over my screen. Tu. And what we are going to see here, let me stop my share. All right. So we are now in the OpenSense portal, and the first screen that we're operating within is called the Designer Studio. The Designer Studio is where we house all of the templates for the organizations that we support. Now, the cool thing about this is that we can create as many templates as are required for your organization. And the reason you might do this is because you've got everyday employees, you've got the marketing team, you've got administrators, you've also got loan officers. You might have different needs for different teams within your organization, and OpenSense gives you the ability to manage those completely independently of each other. A couple of things to note is that OpenSense will actually work collaboratively with you, as I mentioned, to build your signatures from scratch. A reason that we do that is within your user base, it's likely that folks are using Gmail, Yahoo. You probably still have folks that are leveraging AOL Mail for that matter. Um, we provide a significant amount of quality assurance to ensure that any branding that you put into the wild is going to align and look perfectly when a recipient is reading their email on whatever email client or device that they are. Um, we also have a concept of something called like a reply template, where you could potentially have a lighter weight signature that applies on your replies and your forwards. any data can be mapped into an email signature, and it doesn't just need to be limited to your employee data. You might have you might have like the apply now links or the file upload links, meeting links, NMLS fields. These are all fields that likely don't exist within your employee directory, but OpenSense has the ability to sync that data in from one or many other sources, or it can even be manually managed on a per user basis if needed. I'm going to toggle over to my marketing section over here. Um, so the cool thing about OpenSense is that in addition to the email signatures themselves, you also have the ability with OpenSense to manage these banners. And I'm going to pull up an example here just to kind of show you what this could look like. At a high level, you can see sort of deliveries. We can see some clicks. I'm going to go ahead and click into this and show you what sort of data this is going to be able to surface for you. From a marketing standpoint, this is just another channel for you to engage with your market. You can see sort of high level deliveries. We can see our clicks, our click-through rate. You have the ability with OpenSense to set a schedule. So the banners can run as needed. Applying the banner to a specific team, like maybe I want it just for my loan officers. It's just that easy. This will automatically apply that banner to that group of users. And then there's an immense amount of additional data that can be either captured here directly within OpenSense or pushed into your Google Analytics or any other place that you might be managing your signatures. We even provide some tools for you to be able to quickly see which banners are performing and which ones are not. A couple of different ways that OpenSense can be deployed. I'm going to show you our method in Gmail. This will look a little bit different than what it looks like in Outlook. We utilize a very simple plain text signature template that you see here. This is the OpenSense plain text preview. This removes any of the wiggle room for your end users to do anything with font modification or like adding pictures or images. It's a plain text preview that gets automatically provisioned to their devices. It does potentially have some end user flexibility, like for instance, if your titles don't match externally what the enterprise systems have internally, you can potentially unlock certain fields, and those fields can be managed by the end user to ensure that they feel great about the data that's being presented. When I compose and send an email, the data that's in my signature is going to merge into the template that's being managed centrally by my marketing team. Any of the branding that's been centralized, any of the disclosure language, the campaigns, all of that gets inserted en route and can be updated in real time by you centrally within our OpenSense portal. So any changes that you're making within the portal will automatically deploy to your users in real time. You'll notice that a few things have happened. My headshot's been pulled in from our directory. Some of my data has been augmented by my user profile, including my office phone number here. I'm even able to include animated banners, excuse me, logos, really compelling banners, all of which get tracked on on downstream reporting. We even have recipient-specific language here in the disclosure that allows me to ensure that regardless of who I'm emailing, where they are in their customer life cycle, that they're getting the right compliant disclaimer to align with the regulatory guidance that's been provided. So, as we revisit our our deck here for today, I think some important questions to consider. Number one, who owns employee email at your institution right now? It could be IT, it could be marketing. Somebody I'm sure has a document that they've created and distributed on your SharePoint or on the intranet. Who is that person? Do they have a partner on the IT side? I mean, these would be really important questions to look at initially. Um, Another important question is, what would regulators see if they audited your outbound email today? I've talked to enough folks in the space to know that some of this stuff just kind of gets swept under the rug a little, that there's higher precedent and higher priority aspects of compliance. However, if you can ask yourself self honestly, like what would that report look like? And something, might feel off or like it's blemished in some way, that's another important sort of thing to consider. And then also identify where you have the most exposure. Most institutions we work with, it's going to be on the LOs, the LO side, um, the MLO side, because you have the very explicit guidance on NMLS numbers. That's a really good place for OpenSense to kind of start because you've got the regulatory side. You also got a group of users who want to have like an incredibly um, specific way that they're being presented. Some of our MLO email signatures are less like email signatures and more like mini web pages. So that could be a really smart place to address some of the broader opportunities that we've discussed here today. So, with that said, looks like we're right on time here. Um, Remember that your folks are sending emails every single day. There's thousands potentially of touch points that are happening every 24 hours. Each one of those touch points is either going to build trust or erode it. And that's a question for you to consider if it's important enough to solve for. I'm Bobby Narang, co-founder and chief customer officer here at OpenSense. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn if you'd like, or if you have any questions or want to discuss further, don't hesitate to touch base with me. I'm going to stop my share. We'll see if there's any questions that show up in the chat. If no questions, I want to say a sincere thank you to everyone who joined today. Um, Really appreciate you taking some time, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.